Okay, for number 8, find the product. Write the product in simplest form. Product means the answer to a multiplication problem. Now remember that when you're multiplying with fractions, you can simplify before you multiply, but the rule is that you can only find one thing on the top or one thing on the bottom. You have to simplify in pairs, with one being on the top, one being on the bottom, or two things being on the top, two things being on the bottom. So I first note that I can divide 3 and 9 by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I can also simplify 5 and 10. 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. After I've done that, I multiply top, multiply bottom, simplify. So I have a negative times a positive, so my answer will be something negative. Important to remember that. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. So negative 1/6 is my answer. Okay, for number 9. I've got negative 1 1/2 times negative 2 2/3. Before I can multiply out these fractions, I have to make sure that they are improper fractions first. I can't multiply mixed numbers. That's just not going to work. So first off, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So that's going to be negative 3 over 2. That's my first fraction. Okay, times, same concept, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Negative 8 over 3. Now, once I've done that, I can simplify. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so my answer is 4. Here's why. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 over 1 is the same as 4. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So my answer is positive 4. Okay, for number 10. 3/5 times 10 over 28 times 2/9. Now, even though we have three fractions we're multiplying, don't be alarmed. We just are going to simplify like normal, but remember we have to find a pair. Something on the top, something on the bottom that we can divide by the same number. So I know that right away, and there are a few different options of what I could do first, but I know that 5 and 10, I can divide both of those by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. Okay, so I've done one part of this. Now I also know that 3 and 9, which are right here, even though they're not next to each other, one is on the top, one is on the bottom, so I can divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay. Now, at this point, I could do a couple different things. First off, I can see that 2 and 28 are on top and bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 2 by 2, so that makes 1, and 28 by 2, which makes 14. It's important to be really neat with this simplifying so you don't make silly mistakes. Can you see the last place we can simplify? I think it's right here. We can divide 14 and 2 by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so we've done as much as we can do. So now we multiply top, multiply bottom, simplify. 1 times 1 is 1, times 1 is 1. So my numerator is 1. On the bottom, 1 times 7 is 7, times 3 is 21. So my answer is 1 over 21. All right, for number 11, I've got another multiplication problem, 3 1/2 times negative 1 1/14 times 4/5. Again, you need to remember that we are simplifying our mixed numbers into improper fractions. So my first one is going to be 7 over 2. My second fraction will be negative 15 over 14. And my third fraction will be 4 over 5. If you don't know how to turn a mixed number into an improper fraction by now, please raise your hand and wait for me to come over so I can help you with this. Now we're going to simplify. 7 and 14 we can divide by 7, so we would get 1 and 2. 15 and 5 we can divide by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Last place we can simplify. 4 and 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, now I'm going to multiply top and multiply bottom. On my numerator, I get 6. On my denominator, I get 2. 1 times 3 is 3, times 2 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2, times 1 is 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my answer is 3. All right, number 12 says evaluate x, y, z. Evaluate x, y, z if x equals negative 3/5, y is 3/7, and z is 2/9. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out my expression, which is x times y times z. Now you'll notice that there are no times symbols in between the x and the y and the z, but that still means multiplication. But in algebra, we typically just write variables touching instead of showing a multiplication sign. It means the same thing as this. Now I'm going to substitute. So I know that x is negative 3/5 times y, which is 3/7, times z, which is 2/9. All right, so now it's time to simplify. I see a 3 on the top and a 9 on the bottom, which I can divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I don't see, oh, actually I do see one other place. Do you see it? Okay, the last place is a 3 on top here and a 3 on the bottom there. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, now we're done and we can multiply. So multiplying out, let's first just multiply and then worry about our sign. 1 times 1 is 1, times 2 is 2. 5 times 7 is 35, times 1 is 35. All right, now think about your sign. You have a negative sign here, and both of these fractions are positive. So a negative times positive is always negative. So our final answer is negative. The only time we get a positive out of multiplying with a negative is if we have two negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive.